When the first few seasons of Top Boy came out, it got criticised for glorifying a life that not a lot of people understand. And although I would agree in some aspects, for the most part, they did a pretty good job at accurately depicting a life in London being poor in a bad area. If you've never watched Top Boy, it's mainly based on two people, Deshane and Sully. Sully is seen as a hothead, quite violent, and Deshane is seen as a money-hungry, power-hungry person that likes to be at the top all the time. But they grew up together like brothers, at least they say they are. There's a lot of flaws in both of their ways of doing things, and that's not really what I care about. It's actually just the ending. I've just rewatched the whole season, and I see at the end now, we'll first go over Deshane. Deshane dies getting shot by Sully, basically. And he sits there and, nothing really happens. He just dies. It's not really that great. It's not spectacular. He dies with no respect from his mum, no family with him, no one loving him. He dies poor, and no one really cares. Even Sully is someone that's supposed to be his brother, doesn't even really shed a tear over it. He picks up the bag of drugs that he stole from him and he takes him away, and that's kind of that. No one's there for Deshane. And it's because he was always wanting to have power, and because of that, he never respected anyone. He never put true time and love into anyone. Because of that, he died alone. Very, very alone. I want to talk about Sully, because Sully is, for me, who I understand more and I relate to more. At the end of the last episode, he goes to see his daughter and he kind of says goodbye. He knows he's in a bit of a pickle and he probably needs to go and not be there for a couple weeks. And he gets approached by Stefan, and Stefan's older brother has been killed by Sully. And Stefan has been sort of building up to doing this. He's got a gun, he's dressed in all black, he stalks Sully and he puts the gun up to his head. And the first thing, they talk back and forth a little bit. But what strikes me is Sully says, "It's okay. I get it." And then Stefan asks him how it feels. And Sully replies, "I'm not going to lie to you. The feelings have gone. They're not there anymore." He doesn't really care if he dies or lives, really. I think that's what he was trying to say. And that he understands if Stefan needs to do this, so be it. And that plays on my mind because I think a lot of people that live that type of life, most of them have never had a choice. And also a lot of them, that feeling, it goes very quick. You think because Sully's been doing this his whole life, he's got to that point where he doesn't feel. No, you'd probably be mistaken by thinking that, but I would bet that if there was a whole story of Sully, you would actually see that probably when he was very young is when he stopped feeling things, stopped being scared, stopped being nervous, stopped caring for his own life, really, and regard for others. Anyway, Stefan makes a choice and he puts his gun down. He says, "You're not worth it." And that's quite beautiful to see because most of the time, 9 times out of 10, that kid probably would have shot Sully. But you see this kind of chain break, which is quite nice to see, quite beautiful to see from Stefan. And he walks away and, Sully goes, "All right, cool." And he walks away and he goes to get in his car. And Sully gets in his car and he's organising a couple of things and whatnot. And as he's about to drive away, he gets shot in the head. Most people that watched the series did not expect this to happen. No one was expecting this to happen. And at first, you think, okay, it could be Steph. He might have changed his mind. It also could be Jack. Because Jack is someone, again, if you haven't watched, is someone that's kind of on Sully, is on Sully's radar to be killed, really. And everyone thinks it's, her killing Sully before Sully can kill her. But you know what? I thought the same thing when I first watched through. But Now, having rewatched the whole series, I have a list here of all the people that might have killed Sully. Rafe, the Irish, Jack, Steph, Renelle, Kieran's mum, Cy, Erin, Mandy, Shelley. And this list could probably go on for a pretty long time. And although some of those people ain't gangsters and some of them, haven't really been about, the realness of it is that any one of them could have killed Sully. We don't know who it is. A lot of people think it's Jack. A lot of people think it's other people. But what it really shows is that no matter, even if Sully would have went on from that day, at the end of the day, he would have always been, in threat of his life because of how much wrong, how much stuff he's done in his life. Sully says when he's talking to Deshane before he dies is, where we live, you're either a monster or you're food. And I can never be food. And I think, I might be diving a bit too deep into this, but I think, he's saying that he's a monster, but he's scared to say it. He doesn't want to say it. He doesn't want to say, and I'm a monster. He doesn't want that. I don't think he's ever wanted that. And I think instead of saying that he's a monster, he just said he ain't food. Because I believe that the person Sully has become by the end of what we see and kind of what we see very at the start is something that he probably never really wanted to become. But because of his environment, he became this so-called monster. In conclusion, I think a series that got criticised for being glorified gang leaders and drug dealing and stuff like that is quite funny, because actually at the end of this glorified life, two people that never really had a family unit, never got rich, barely ever moved outside of London to explore and see things, they never had a lot of happy memories. All they did was grow up in a crap hole, kill people, deal drugs to make other people even worse, bully kids, bully people into doing whatever they wanted, and then they died. And unfortunately, that is the reality of a lot of people that choose to live that life. Of course, not all, but the majority. I have a lot of empathy for people like Sully and Deshane, because I know that most likely if they had never even been exposed to the environment they were, they probably would have never even touched, seen, or understood the life they lived. Whatever environment you grew up in has a massive influence on who you are as a person. But just like the same hot water that makes an egg hard makes a potato soft, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that the environment that you're in has to fully dictate who you are. It can dictate you in different ways. And you always have a choice, no matter what it is. So if you feel like your environment is dictating your life in a way that you don't want to go, you can just always switch. It's hard, it's not easy, but you're able to do it. Deshane and Sully could have got out many, many times, but they chose to stay in it. That's their fault. It's not their fault that they were brought up in that life, but it was their fault that they stayed. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.